Let's get hyped. Welcome into the Husker247 HypeCast. I am Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson, Husker247, and this week's special guest for the Northern Iowa game. 2-0 Nebraska. We haven't seen 2-0 since 2016. This guy has been on the Lincoln airwaves since well before 2016. We welcome in Hail Varsity Radio's own Chris Schmidt. Chris, how we doing?
I'm good, Shave. Awesome to be with you and Brunty and BC. Thank you so much for the invite to Northern Iowa Week, man. Let's get fired up.
Yeah, what is the first thing you think of when you think of Northern Iowa?
Oh, it's either Joe Gans or Kurt Warner. And Joe'd be proud that he was mentioned in front of Kurt Warner.
Yeah, I would say those are dramatically different quarterbacks in terms of, how things have gone for them, even since 2008. Michael Bruntz, first thing you think of with Northern Iowa?
Ali Farokhmanesh.
Okay,
yeah, there we go.
That's probably where I go first. Second is Breon Carnes. I think that's second.
Okay, all right, that's a good one. BC, what do you got?
I'm with Bruntz. I'm with Bruntz. I think of UNI beating Kansas in the first round.
Yeah, that was a fantastic upset. I only wish that I was still in Kansas City. I was in Kansas City that weekend for the Thursday, Friday, Saturday games. Drove back, caught it on Sunday when I got home. Would have been wonderful to have been in the Power and Light area, mocking the Kansas people there as they lost to Northern Iowa. I don't know that I'd still be here today, given the, I was on one at that point, but it was a delightful day in basketball history. I think it's going to be a delightful day for Nebraska on Saturday against Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa is 2-0, coming off of a 17-10 win against St. Thomas on the road up there. For those that don't know, St. Thomas is up in the Twin Cities. They recently just joined the Missouri Valley in the Summit League. So they are they're a relatively newish FCS program, but they might have some talent. I don't know. I don't know much about St. Thomas. But let's move on, and let's start, as we always do, offensive side of the ball. First question is going to go to Michael Bruntz. Nebraska struggled a bit in the second half. You've had a chance to rewatch that game. You have put eyes on what they did in the second half. When you think about Nebraska's second half, no points, what sort of comes to mind besides just the penalty fest?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a uneven game. I mean, I don't think Nebraska was really trying to put things in any danger. Like, I think the number one thing in that second half was like, let's just avoid danger. And they had the long play by Ramiro that was called back. Corey Barney had a couple that were called back. I feel like if a few of those penalties had not happened, you probably leave feeling a lot differently. But that's part of the growth of the program, is how do you kind of keep the pedal down whenever you're up by that many. And I think Nebraska, they played complementary football. I mean, I think that's the one benefit that defense gives you, is you don't have to, just get risky with it. I mean, I think they were completely fine to let Nebraska's defense continue to work, but I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more oomph offensively than what we saw. So that's one area that I think they can certainly improve, is, with Northern Iowa coming in, is how do you play with a lead if they're able to get up early.
Chris, you've now seen 2 weeks of Dylan Raiola, two fairly different games. I mean, you had a UTEP team that you expected Nebraska to overwhelm, and he was able to do it. You had a Colorado team that there was some challenges in the secondary. They've got some talent there, certainly with Travis Hunter, who, a tremendous two-way player, potentially taking out Jamal Banks as he did for most of that game. What did you see from Dylan Raiola on Saturday, and how has he sort of met, or maybe he hasn't met, expectations you had for him so far in the 24th season?
Shafe, I look at Dylan, and the composure's great, right? Composure, big game, juiced environment, and he is able to kind of let the game come to him. Part of that is the offense and play calling getting him some quick, easier throws or the run game being established. So his poise and his competencies at a high level, and he's hit a lot of those deep shots, and a couple of times when he's not hit them, they've not been on him. There's been a couple of drops in that aspect. So no, his composure has been great. My expectations for him were to come in and be able to make the throws when they ask him to. He's been able to do that, but Nebraska's been very good at, even though they're not going to play with kid gloves with Raiola, they've not asked him to go be Adrian Martinez and put everybody on his back. So there's been help on the offense.
BC, earlier this week, Matt Rule said something to the effect that other players need to be on Dylan's level as it relates to sort of the offense. What do you think he meant by that comment?
I think it's most directly attached to sort of this idea or some questions that come out, like, are you toning things down or when you have a lead because you have this freshman quarterback? Or at least I think that's how the coaches perceive sort of the questions or the talk out there. And they're making the point that he's the least of the reasons why we would take our foot off the pedal, actually, because he knows the playbook better than anybody. I thought it was interesting, like in the 2-minute drive against Colorado at the end of the first half, they didn't know exactly what CU was going to run there. And Rule was pointing out that Raiola was actually, making a recommendation for like a call that would work against it because he'd studied it so in depth. And so I think it's just a way we've seen that Matt Rule likes to motivate his team, I think, through those media sessions. And it's, getting on some of those offensive guys who are veterans, like, hey, the freshman's doing his part. You could probably step it up a notch still, and this can be better than it has been. And maybe you avoid some of that clunkiness we saw in the second half, if that's the case. So I think that's what it's about.
Sticking with Brian here as we work our way back around. Brian, when the season started, there was 4 running backs all listed on the first line. You had the oars all the way across. Now it's Dante Dowdell or Ramir Johnson. What has happened for those two to have sort of separated themselves? In your opinion, how have they looked kind of in the first 2 weeks this season?
Yeah, I think Dowdell has shown that you had heard like, oh, this guy can squat like everything in the weight room and all that stuff. And now you see like, okay, it's attached to like a guy who can really has some burst and can also use that weight room strength to move the pile for 2 or 3 extra yards. The most impressive stuff to me about Dowdell so far this season is stuff that isn't amazing on like a stat sheet when you read it the next day. It's a couple of those like 4 or 5 yard runs that he's been able to get where he's kept pushing and the piles kind of just kept moving that extra couple yards. Sometimes to get a first down, other times just to get you in better down and distances, which I don't think Nebraska's always had. And then I mentioned it on a previous pod. I think you guys were equally impressed on the run that got called back on the Ben Hart hold where he kind of hurdled a guy inside the 5. That just showed with that power, he's got some of that to his game too, where he could jump over a guy. And I think they like his mentality. Like, maybe not every week would you want your guy to just run over the safety and get tackled at the 11 because of it. You'd rather him juke him. But in that particular game, I think they absolutely wanted him to send that kind of message. And he did when he hit Shiloh Sanders. Unfortunately, got injured. But as far as a football play, that was big time tone setter. So I think he's done a good job with that. And then Ramir, you just trust him. He just knows stuff. On third down, he's going to catch the ball well and all those things. And Ramir would have had 100 yards if not for the penalty, on the long run. So, and I think would have looked at the offensive performance a little bit differently had they put that 1 exclamation point down in the second half.
Schmidt, we got to see Nebraska flood the bench earlier this year against UTEP halfway through the third quarter. Heinrich Harburg was in, and then in the fourth quarter, Jalen Gramstad was in. And we saw players from what you assume to be the second, third, and even fourth team offense. Is there anyone or any ones, you can go multiple here, any younger players you're excited to kind of get the chance to see Saturday if Nebraska is able to build an early lead and once again flood the bench with Northern Iowa in town?
I'm just seeing him through his high school career. Gunnar Gatula, right? We've seen and heard a lot about Gunnar and how he's gone to work and climbed his way up the depth chart here pretty early, backing up that right tackle spot. But, I think Nebraska's tackle play has been pretty good, aside from a penalty here or there. But if things get nasty for Northern Iowa, getting Gatula in on that right side, and I know them, I'm pretty sure that they've cross-trained. So what's he look like in live action? He's seen some time already, I understand, but more is better, right, for those guys on the offensive line. And just seeing him jump as quickly as he has been impressive. And let's see him against some big dudes from the Midwest when it's time to eat hot dogs in the second half, because it's a blowout.
Michael Bruntz, to finish up here on the offensive side of the ball, what can Nebraska get out of a weekend like this one? I mean, you got an opponent that you're expected to overwhelm. I'm asking questions about Nebraska being able to flood the bench. What do you think Nebraska can get out of Saturday? What do you think they need to get out of Saturday?
It feels like a game that just cries out for efficiency. Like if the offense is able to click, if you hit a few big plays, if you get the running game going, you want to overwhelm a team you're supposed to overwhelm. Like that's what you're hoping to get out of this game. You hopefully also get some guys on the second team and the third team some reps if things go well. I mean, you look at the second team just as offensive line as an example. Chris mentioned Gatula. That's a good example. I mean, Jason Machachok is a younger guy in the program that's second on the depth chart right now. Sam Sledge, the backup center, a younger guy in the program. You'd love to be able to get like Grant Bricks or Gibson Piles some reps if you can. I mean, that's the benefit of being able to go out and overwhelm a team that you're supposed to overwhelm. So I just think, offensively, they need to play competent football and do what they've kind of done the first couple the first couple games of the season. Complete passes, move the ball on the ground, and take care of your business. I mean, if they don't, that's where you kind of get the nervous grumbles and things like that kind of creep in sometimes in a game like this if things aren't going to plan.
Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, Bruntz, if an opponent like Northern Iowa, dramatically different offensive profile than what Nebraska has faced so far in Colorado and UTEP, it's hard to ask if you foresee Northern Iowa's rushing offense giving Nebraska a huge challenge. But what would you like to see from Nebraska's sort of rushing defense as they kind of go up against what is by far the best rushing attack they face this year?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of want to see the big guys up front muck it up a little bit. I think the first couple games were kind of tailor-made for guys like James Williams that get after the passer and create havoc. I'd kind of like to see James Williams be a multi-down defensive end against a team that's going to try to run the ball at him. I mean, I want to see what that looks like. And, we still don't have clarity as of this recording about what Mekhi Bayer's situation is. But, you're going to have either Steph Thompson or Vincent Shavers in there starting if he loses his appeal. So, you just want Nebraska to kind of do what it did last year against the run and really just kind of make life difficult and tackle well. I mean, that's the thing to remember is Northern Iowa's got a running back that's listed at 6'4", 230. You got to hit well. You got to make sure that he stays on the ground and you're able to tackle as a group. That's kind of the challenge is just kind of, do what you can do and then force them into third and long. And that's when you play to your strengths, your defense.
Chris, through 2 games so far, who's kind of stood out to you? And you can go multiple players if you want, but who's stood out for you on Nebraska's defense so far? Who do you think has raised their game from 2023 to where we are now in 2024?
A guy you guys have covered a long time on the recruiting trail is Ty Robinson with the offers he had, the get he was, and a lot of Nebraska fans waiting for Ty Robinson to break out. He's had a really good career. He's come back for a 6th season, and now he's really setting the tone, right? He's a guy that is playing all conference level. You've been waiting for Ty to be an all-conference player. He's kind of accepted that leadership role. He's teaching it to the younger guys, but his play has been game-changing with the way he set the tone against Colorado with the sack and then the tipped pass. That's the guy that sticks out to me. I really do like Nash as well. Those are two obvious takes, but those are the guys that have kind of wowed me so far, just with the change of direction. The Nash, when he gets into the backfield, the way he's able to kind of go hunt down a quarterback or at least stay laterally with someone running for their life. So both those guys have been good. Bayer's been money. I really like him. Bullock, we can just name the defense, but that first and second level is good. I got a quick question. Brunsey, you're an A's fan and you got a Cardinals hat on. Do you have a winning hat in the collection?
Chris Schmidt is he's gonna learn about the joy of Michael Bruns's love for the mystery hat. Here we go.
No, this was a mystery hat that I believe was like 25. I only paid 25% of the actual cost of it. So
it was on sale.
The 47 brand, they do a mystery hat. They basically pull it out and send it to you. We all did it. I got stuck with an Arizona Cardinals hat. So I wear it from time to time. Not a Cardinals fan, but for whatever reason, a lot of my free hats feature birds on them. So there's that. For whatever reason, big bird guy. That's
you're getting to the age though where you're going to be more into birds. You probably are about 2 years from a bird book purchase.
You think he's going to be an ornithologist?
I think like when you work in your 40s and closer to 50, you think about a bird book, and it's like I'd like to know what that is outside on the fence.
Well, the binoculars aren't just a fake flask anymore,
They're real. That's real.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to talk to 47 brand about sponsoring the HypeCast. I feel
I love that, man. That's awesome.
I feel like they'd be a good sponsor here. All right, let's get back on track. BC. Can Willis McGahee improve upon his 99.5% Pro Football Focus rating?
It's going to be tough. Yeah, it's going to be tough. For those who didn't know, I don't know what he did wrong, though. He didn't get 100. He had a 99.1. He had a sack, forced a fumble that resulted in a turnover.
Is it because he didn't recover it?
Yeah,
he didn't recover it. That was the extra 0.5.
Why didn't you pick it up with one hand and walking backwards?
Just pick it right off the guy's hand, walk it into the end zone. No, a more serious question. In the same vein of what I asked Chris on offense, younger guys on defense, is there anybody that we either haven't seen much of so far or that you would like to see more of that would have an opportunity in this Northern Iowa game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this could be a Shavers game, where we see a lot of him. He's not like a young player necessarily, but he's new to Nebraska. Sierra Wright was getting a little mention as they liked what he did. Amari Sanders, I think, is a guy you could see out there. You wonder if like Mario Buford. I mean, they're gonna get guys into the game, hopefully, that maybe are still gonna redshirt, and so that's the part you're really looking forward to. I would say a really good thing about this team that I don't think is just kissing up or anything. I think they really do love each other. Like there's a real care for like getting other guys in the game. Like you saw against UTEP, like that was a real focus, like going in, like the starters wanted to play well. So the third team guys who, are busting their butt at 6 a.m. all off season, get some reps. And I think it meant a lot to them that they accomplished that. And because of that, I think that is one of the reasons why I'm not as worried about them sleepwalking through this game. I think the night kickoff helps too. It's not like some 11 a.m. stuff. So I think you're going to see a lot of young players. And those are the guys that come to mind, but there's going to be some even further down the depth chart, like Gage Stinger or somebody, they're going to hopefully get in this game and get to make a couple plays.
Chris, you've watched a lot of Nebraska football. You've seen them go on runs where they've had some of the best place kickers in all of college football history. And they seem to be on the opposite of that run right now. Where would you put your confidence in Nebraska's ability to make field goals? And do you think there would be some value Saturday in if some of the drives end up short of the end zone just to try to get Tristan Alvano some kicks in the run of regulation?
That is the silver lining, right? If you're the offense and you stall in the red zone, Nebraska's red zone numbers. They want them to be better through 2 weeks for sure. So yeah, that's all right. My confidence level is, if it's depending on where it's at on the field, and I know it's that gray area past the 50, shy of the 30. I'm at the point right now, man, where I'm going for it on 4th and 5. I'm going to roll Dylan out. I'm going to try and find a back, do something, because I just don't have the confidence that the kick from Alvano will go through the upright. And you feel sick for the kid, because he did it on the biggest stage before college to win it in walk-off fashion with Westside. And then he comes in here and it's kind of a hot and cold freshman season. And then it's, by all accounts, it wasn't a great camp with a consistency for him. And you've got people breathing down your neck. You have 3 kickers. Find one that can hit one from 35 or 40, because you're going to have a mother of a schedule coming up here with Rutgers and Illinois. Might come down to a field goal. November looms. You're going to need to drill 3 at some point to tie it, go ahead, or at least get a score in some tough environments.
Muggle Brunch, last thing here on the defense special team side of it. Do you have any questions remaining about Nebraska's defense? Or do you feel like you have a pretty good grasp on how this group is going to kind of perform week in and week out as we get closer to Big Ten play?
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they can kind of keep the pace up with turnovers. Nebraska as a team is +3 right now, and they're trending in a good direction. I mean, I would like to see that continue Saturday against Northern Iowa. Those kind of middle schedule games against Illinois and Rutgers, and I'm eager to see it at Purdue. I'm eager to see if Nebraska can take the ball away in those games too. I mean, I think anecdotally you kind of see guys ripping at the ball a little bit more than maybe what they have in the past. And, kind of continuing on that trend, I think is really important for Nebraska to kind of keep stacking wins. Is you want to be positive in the turnover margin category, which, they're +3 right now, like I said. And that's what I'm kind of eager to see if that continues, because you're going to be playing teams, I think, that are a little bit more difficult to take the ball away from once the calendar turns into October.
Let's move into the prediction picks part of the program. We will start with the oddly specific prediction. I will start with this one, as I want to jump in front of the line. I don't know who else is thinking this. I have Nebraska pitching a shutout this Saturday. I don't see Northern Iowa scoring. I don't see them scoring on Nebraska's first team defense. I don't see them scoring on Nebraska's second team defense. I don't see them scoring on Nebraska's third team defense. I don't see them scoring on Nebraska's fourth team defense. I don't see them scoring on Nebraska's scout team defense. This is a bad offense. Nebraska should treat them like a bad offense. Should be a goose egg on Saturday, which I don't think we've seen around Nebraska in a little bit of time. I don't know what our stats department knows about that, but I see a shutout for the Huskers on Saturday. That's my oddly specific prediction.
All right, I'm going to go a little weird here, not just with the 4 field goals for Northern Iowa, but their kicker impresses so much he ends up in Lincoln next year.
That might be the longest term oddly specific prediction we've ever had. We'll have to keep that one on the board for over a calendar year, I think. Well, not quite. We'll know by next spring, I think.
Whether, all right, 4 field goals for Northern Iowa. There's my oddly specific prediction.
All right, Brunch, what do you got?
Oddly specific prediction. I think Nebraska is going to get really deep into their running back depth this week for the reasons we've kind of laid out here. I think we get 3 rushing touchdowns from 3 different running backs. I'm going to go Gabe Irvin. I'm going to go Ramir Johnson, and I'm going to go Dante Dowdell. I feels like Emmett Johnson probably gets shut out here, but I think it's those 3. And I think Ramir's going to have the longest of the 3. I'll go. He's going to break one, and I'm going to say he's going to go 47 yards for a touchdown at some point in Saturday's game.
BC, what do you got? Oddly specific prediction.
Special teams will score a touchdown for Nebraska. That could be an IGC return or a block kick. I'm going to go with block kick by Elliott Brown, who I believe just missed one 2 weeks ago. It's going to be one of those where he blocks it, keeps his footing, and he picks it up on about the 2-yard line and kind of stumbles into the end zone. Like he barely gets over the goal line, and then everybody dogpiles him.
All right. We'll stick with BC. Give me your pick to click.
Give me Jalen Lloyd. This is kind of a specific prediction too. I think they're going to hit Lloyd for a big touchdown, like a 50-some yarder. I feel like they want to get Lloyd the ball, and they just missed on that one the other day. Where Lloyd actually said he should have dove for it. He had the nice play with Rilo where they got it down to the 1-yard line. But I think they hook up where a UNI DB's just like, what the stink is this with this guy's speed? And he just runs right by him. It's like a 54-yard touchdown. So Jalen Lloyd's my pick to click.
All right, Chris Schmidt.
Going to go Emmett Johnson. I think Emmett got to watch a lot last week in a big ball game. I think he's fired up. Give me Emmett with 120 yards and a couple of touchdowns.
Brunt.
Well, with the Bear stuff going on, I think Nebraska's going to need a good game from John Bullock. This is going to be a game that's going to be a little bit more downhill, a little bit more run support. So I think Bullock continues the trend that he's on from a really solid game against Colorado, and he has a really nice game against Northern Iowa.
I will go with Carter Nelson, who scores his first career Nebraska touchdown against Northern Iowa on Saturday. I don't know when it's going to be, but I think he has a nice game. I think he's targeted a few times. One of them ends up in the end zone. All right, score prediction. Let's see. We know that Schmidt likes 4 field goals, and we know that I don't have Northern Iowa scoring. So we have a little information coming into this. We'll start with Brian. What do you got?
Nebraska 48-7. I don't think the shutout prediction is bad by any means, but I always have trouble like pulling the trigger on that. So 48-7.
All right. Brunt.
41-13 Nebraska.
All right. I'm going 38-0. Just they beat them up. They hold them to no points. They don't really try a whole lot of fancy stuff in the second half. Just a workman-like get in, get out, 38-0. Chris Schmidt, take us home.
46-12. 46-12. Nebraska win. Nebraska cover.
What's the longest of those 4 field goals? Now I need a distance in there somewhere.
I think he pops.
Does this kid bombing one?
I think he bombs one from 52.
Oh,
now
wow.
watch both kickers be on the injury report about Saturday by 5. We'll burn the tape.
You're gonna be at the stadium watching the tassels, seeing if it's swirling at all, trying to determine which side is gonna be better.
I'm gonna lick my thumb and stick it in the air. Yeah, we're gonna do all that.
Very scientific stuff.
We're gonna have the old kicker jersey on in the press box.
It wouldn't be the first time an oddly specific prediction was out the window before the game even began. If that happened.
All right. We'll take notes. This has been awesome, guys. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to have you on. First time that we've had Chris Schmidt join us here on the Husker247 HypeCast. You can catch his stuff on Hail Varsity Radio throughout the week, Monday through Friday. Chris, you still doing a Saturday show as well?
We are. We do the weekend edition that is kind of a flex schedule deal for depending on kickoff time. So 3:30 to 5:30, shameless plug, single barrel to where we're at set up. So yeah, Saturdays we get rocking and rolling on Hail Varsity YouTube and over the air.
I can't speak for Brunts, but if you don't enjoy me at all in terms of podcast or radio, you can blame Chris Schmidt. He's the one who basically brought me on the first radio show, had me sit in the studio, had me fill airtime. It's all his fault. It all started with Chris Schmidt and the Huskers Illustrated Radio back in 2011. So
and then
send your hate mail that I received now. Send it to @Schmidt_radio on Twitter.
The Blue Chip Recruiting Show. We got to shout out that one.
Yeah, that was some good some good practice there for me. That was,
we
that was
loved
rough
it.
at
We
times.
loved it. We got to go have beer after.
I think we like going out after more than we did the
It
actual
was
hour of
fun.
the show. But, what are you going to do? All right. That is it for us here at the Husker 24/7 HypeCast. Be sure to check out everything we got going on, Husker247.com. Plenty of recruiting coverage still coming in from the big Colorado weekend. Nebraska picked up the commitment and Christian Jones. We talked about that in the last podcast, but we've got plenty of stories on the site as well. BC and Brunt's covering everything team related. Have all of that. Basketball had a busy visit weekend as too, and we had some coverage from that you can find at Husker247.com. We're getting into that portion of the year where basketball is going to start working its way into the discussion, coming off of an NCAA tournament appearance. So a lot happening there as well. You can find everything you want to find at Husker247.com.